Hey there, and welcome to True Scary Stories. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling us where you're from and what time you're watching. That helps YouTube know you love creepy stories, and it'll keep sending more your way.
What's going on, everyone? Tonight I've got 4 stories from people who make their living on the road. Truckers who've seen things in the dark that most of us will never have to face. These highways stretch through some of the most isolated parts of the country, and when you're out there alone at 3 in the morning, you start to realize just how vulnerable you really are. These stories come from drivers who've experienced things they still can't explain, things that made them question whether they should ever drive at night again. So turn off your lights and let's get started. Story 1. The Woman in White. My name's Tony, and I've been long haul for about 12 years now. I've seen a lot of weird stuff on the road. Drunk drivers, animals you wouldn't believe, even a few accidents that still give me nightmares. But nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to what happened to me on Route 50 in Nevada about 3 years ago. It was late October, around 2 in the morning. I was hauling a load of construction equipment from Reno to a job site outside of Ely. Route 50 is called the loneliest road in America for a reason. There's nothing out there. No gas stations, no rest stops, just endless stretches of desert and darkness. The kind of darkness that feels thick, like it's pressing against your windows. I'd been driving for about 6 hours straight, and I was getting tired. My eyes were starting to blur, and I was seriously considering pulling over to catch a few hours of sleep when I saw her. At first, I thought it was a mirage or something my exhausted brain was conjuring up, but as I got closer, I could see her clearly in my headlights. A woman, standing on the side of the road, wearing what looked like a long white dress. She was just standing there, not waving, not trying to flag me down, just standing perfectly still, facing the road. Now, I'm not the kind of guy who picks up hitchhikers. It's against company policy, and honestly, it's just not safe. But something about seeing another person out there in the middle of nowhere made me slow down. I thought maybe she was in trouble. Maybe her car had broken down somewhere nearby. I pulled my rig over about 20 feet past where she was standing and put on my hazards. Through my side mirror, I could see her still standing there in the same spot, not moving. That's when I started to feel uneasy. The way she was just frozen there. It wasn't natural. I grabbed my flashlight and climbed down from the cab. The desert air was cold, and the wind was making this low whistling sound that set my teeth on edge. "Hey!" I called out. "You okay? You need help?" She didn't respond, didn't even turn her head. I took a few steps toward her, the beam of my flashlight cutting through the darkness. That's when I got my first good look at her face. She was pale, not just regular pale, but almost translucent, like I could see the veins underneath her skin. Her eyes were dark, too dark, like they were all pupil, and she was smiling, this wide, unnatural smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Miss?" I tried again, but my voice came out weaker this time. She finally turned her head toward me, and that smile got wider. Then she spoke, and her voice was wrong. It sounded like multiple voices layered on top of each other, some high-pitched, some deep. "Take me with you." Every instinct I had screamed at me to run. I backpedaled toward my truck, not taking my eyes off her. She didn't move, just kept standing there with that horrible smile, her head tilted at an unnatural angle. I climbed back into my cab, my hands shaking so bad I could barely get the door closed. I threw the truck into gear and hit the gas, not caring about the load I was carrying or the company's fuel efficiency standards. I just needed to get away from her. As I pulled away, I looked in my side mirror one more time. She was still standing in the same spot, but now she was facing my truck, watching me leave. And here's the part that still makes my blood run cold. She was waving. Not a normal wave. Her arm was moving back and forth, but it was too fast, too mechanical, like a wind-up toy. And she was getting smaller in my mirror as I drove away, but that smile was still visible, that awful smile that stretched too wide across her face. I drove for another 2 hours straight, not stopping until I reached a truck stop just outside of Ely. My hands were still shaking when I finally parked. I went inside, got some coffee, and tried to convince myself I'd imagined the whole thing, that I'd been too tired and my brain had played tricks on me. But then I talked to another driver in the parking lot, an older guy named Raymond, who'd been driving these routes for 30 years. When I told him what I saw, his face went white. "You saw her too," he said. It wasn't a question. Apparently, I wasn't the first driver to encounter the woman in white on Route 50. Raymond told me there'd been reports going back decades. Different drivers, different years, but always the same description. A woman in a white dress, standing alone in the desert, always around 2 or 3 in the morning, always with that smile. Some drivers who stopped to help her never made it to their destinations. Their trucks would be found abandoned, engines still running, but the driver nowhere to be found. No signs of a struggle, no footprints leading away, just gone. Raymond told me about a driver named Eddie who picked her up back in 1987. Eddie radioed his dispatcher, said he had a passenger who needed help. That was the last anyone heard from him. They found his truck 3 days later, parked on Route 50. The cab was empty, but Eddie's logbook was open on the seat. The last entry he'd written was just 2 words, scratched so hard into the paper that it had torn through to the pages beneath. "She's here." I don't drive Route 50 anymore. I'll take longer routes, burn more fuel, I don't care. Because sometimes, late at night, when I'm driving through dark stretches of highway, I'll see a figure in white in the distance, and even though I tell myself it's just a mile marker or a reflection, I can't shake the feeling that she's still out there, still waiting for someone to stop.
Story 2. The Rest Stop. My name is Jackson, and I used to love driving at night. Used to. There's something peaceful about it, you know? The roads are empty, no traffic to deal with, just you and the highway. But after what happened at that rest stop in Montana, I can barely stand to be on the road after dark anymore. This was about 18 months ago. I was hauling a load of refrigerated goods from Seattle to Minneapolis, which meant I had to keep moving. Can't let that refrigeration unit fail or the whole load spoils. It was around midnight when I crossed into Montana on I-94, and I was feeling pretty good. I'd gotten some rest earlier in the evening, had a full thermos of coffee, and the roads were clear. Around 1:30 in the morning, I started getting drowsy. The coffee wasn't helping anymore, and I was having trouble keeping my eyes focused. I knew I needed to pull over, splash some water on my face, maybe do a few jumping jacks to get the blood flowing again. That's when I saw the sign for a rest stop coming up in 2 miles. Perfect timing. I took the exit and pulled into the rest area. It was one of those older facilities, not like the newer ones with vending machines and tourist information, just a small brick building with bathrooms and a couple of picnic tables outside. The parking lot was empty except for one other vehicle at the far end, a dark sedan that looked like it had been there a while. I parked my rig, grabbed my flashlight, and headed toward the building. The overhead lights in the parking lot were buzzing and flickering, casting these weird shadows that moved and jumped. The whole place had this abandoned feeling to it, like nobody had been there in months. The men's room door creaked when I pushed it open. Inside, it was what you'd expect. Tile walls, a row of sinks, 3 stalls. Everything looked grimy and neglected. One of the fluorescent lights was out, making half the room darker than it should be. I went to the sink, splashed cold water on my face, and looked at myself in the mirror. That's when I heard it. A scratching sound. It was coming from the last stall, the one in the darkest part of the bathroom. Slow, deliberate scratching, like nails on metal or concrete. I froze, water still dripping from my face. "Hello?" I called out. My voice echoed off the tile walls. The scratching stopped. I waited, listening. Nothing. Just the buzz of the remaining fluorescent light and the drip of a leaky faucet. I was probably being paranoid, I told myself. It was probably just a rat or some other animal that had gotten inside. But something about that sound had felt intentional, purposeful. I dried my face with a paper towel and started walking toward the door. That's when I heard it again. The scratching. Faster this time, more urgent. Against my better judgment, I turned around. The door to the last stall was closed, and I could see shadows moving underneath it. Something was in there. "Hey, you all right in there?" I asked, taking a step closer. The scratching stopped again. Then the door to the stall slowly began to open. It swung outward, creaking on rusty hinges, revealing the interior inch by inch. There was someone in there, but they weren't sitting. They were crouched on the toilet, squatting like an animal. I couldn't see their face because they were facing away from me, hunched over. They were wearing dark clothes, and their hair was long and matted. Sorry, man, didn't know anyone was in here," I said, backing toward the exit. That's when they started to turn their head. Not their body, just their head, rotating slowly to look at me. And it kept turning, past the point where it should have stopped, past 90 degrees, past 180 degrees, until they were completely looking at me backward while their bodies still faced the wall. I saw their face then, or what should have been their face. The features were wrong, distorted, like looking at someone through water. Their eyes were too large, their mouth too wide, and when they smiled, I saw that they had too many teeth, way too many teeth. I didn't stick around to see what happened next. I bolted from that bathroom, my heart hammering in my chest. I ran across the parking lot to my truck, fumbling with my keys, expecting at any moment to feel a hand grab me from behind. I got the door open, threw myself inside, and locked it. Through my windshield, I could see the bathroom door. It was still closed. Nothing had followed me out, but I wasn't taking any chances. I started the engine and pulled out of that rest stop faster than I've ever pulled out of anywhere. As I merged back onto the highway, I glanced in my rearview mirror. The rest stop was disappearing behind me, the flickering lights getting smaller. But just before it vanished completely, I saw something that made my stomach drop. The dark sedan that had been at the far end of the lot was gone, and standing in the middle of the parking lot, clearly visible in the flickering lights, was a figure, just standing there, watching. I drove straight through to Minneapolis without stopping again. When I got to the delivery point, I was exhausted and shaking. I filed a report with the company about the rest stop, said it should be marked as unsafe. They told me they'd look into it. About a week later, I got a call from my dispatcher. He said they'd sent someone to check out that rest stop. When the guy got there, he found that the building had been condemned for over 5 years. Chain link fence around it, closed signs posted everywhere. The doors were padlocked shut. I know what I saw. I know what I experienced. And I know that whatever was in that bathroom wasn't human. I've driven past that exit a few times since then, always during the day, never at night. The rest stop is still there, still behind its fence, still condemned. But sometimes, when I drive past, I swear I can see a figure standing in the parking lot. Just standing there, watching.
Story 3. The Hitchhiker's Game. Name's Derek. I've been trucking for 15 years, and I've always prided myself on being a logical guy. Don't believe in ghosts, don't believe in curses, none of that supernatural stuff. But what happened to me on Highway 61 in Louisiana changed the way I think about what's possible. It was a humid summer night, the kind where the air feels like soup and you can't get comfortable no matter what you do. I was hauling a load of textiles from Baton Rouge to Jackson, Mississippi, taking the old highway because the interstate was shut down for construction. Highway 61 runs through some pretty desolate areas. Swamps, forests, small towns that look like time forgot them.
It was around 10 o'clock, and I hadn't seen another car in about 30 minutes. Just my headlights cutting through the darkness and the endless road ahead. That's when I saw him. A kid. Couldn't have been more than 16 or 17, standing on the shoulder with his thumb out. He was wearing jeans and a faded t-shirt, and he had a backpack at his feet. As I got closer, I could see he looked scared. His face was pale, and he kept looking over his shoulder like something was chasing him. Now, like I said before, I don't pick up hitchhikers. It's a rule. But this kid looked genuinely terrified, and there was nothing around for miles. No houses, no gas stations, nothing. If I left him there and something happened to him, I'd never forgive myself. I slowed down and pulled over. The kid grabbed his backpack and ran up to the passenger side. I rolled down the window. "You okay, son?" I asked. "Please," he said, and his voice was shaking. "Please, I need a ride. I need to get away from here." "What's wrong? You in some kind of trouble?" He looked over his shoulder again, back into the darkness beyond the road. "Please, I'll explain everything. Just please let me in." Something about his fear felt genuine. I made a decision I'd later regret. I unlocked the door, and he climbed in, throwing his backpack on the floor. "Thank you," he breathed. "Thank you so much." I pulled back onto the highway, picking up speed. "You want to tell me what's going on?" He was quiet for a moment, staring out the windshield. Then he said, "Have you ever heard of the hitchhiker's game?" "The what?" "It's something that exists out here, on this road. My friends and we were trying to prove it wasn't real, but we were wrong." I glanced at him. He looked dead serious, no hint of joking around. "What are you talking about?" He took a shaky breath. "The story goes that there's something on Highway 61 that plays a game with people. If you pick up the wrong hitchhiker, you become part of it. My friends and I heard about it online, and we thought it was just a creepypasta or whatever. So we came out here tonight to prove it was fake. We split up, and I was supposed to try to get a ride while they filmed from the trees." "That's a pretty stupid thing to do," I said. I know that now. But when I was waiting out there, something came out of the woods. Something that looked like a person, but it wasn't. It moved wrong, and it started walking toward me. That's when I saw your truck, and I ran for it." I didn't know what to make of this kid's story. Part of me thought he was messing with me, but the fear in his eyes looked real. "Where are your friends now?" "I don't know. We lost radio contact about 20 minutes ago." We drove in silence for a few minutes. I kept checking my mirrors, half expecting to see something behind us, but the road stayed empty. The kid was fidgeting with his backpack, and I noticed his hands were scratched up like he'd been running through thorns. "What's your name?" I asked, trying to ease the tension. "Trevor." "All right, Trevor. I'm Derek. We're about 40 minutes from..." That's when I saw it. Another hitchhiker, standing on the side of the road, thumb out. But this one was different. This one was wearing the exact same clothes as Trevor. Same jeans, same faded t-shirt, same backpack. I felt my blood go cold. I looked at Trevor, then back at the figure on the road. Trevor followed my gaze and went rigid. "That's not me. That's not me. Don't stop. Please don't stop." I had no intention of stopping. I accelerated, and as we passed the figure, it turned its head to watch us. Even in the brief second that my headlights illuminated its face, I could see it was wrong. The features were right. It looked exactly like Trevor, but the expression was off. It was smiling, but the smile was too wide, too knowing. "What the hell was that?" I demanded. Trevor was hyperventilating. "It's the game. It copies people. That's what the story said. It copies the hitchhiker and tries to get picked up by someone else. And when it does, trailed off." "When it does what?" "The person who picks it up becomes the next player, and the previous hitchhiker disappears." I didn't want to believe him. I wanted to think this was some elaborate prank,
that there were cameras in my cab and I was going to end up on some YouTube channel. But the fear in Trevor's voice was too real, and I'd seen that face's cloak. We kept driving, and I kept the speedometer at 70, not caring about fuel economy or regulations. I just wanted to get this kid to the next town and be done with this whole situation. But then, I saw another one. Another Trevor, standing on the side of the road, same clothes, same backpack. This time, I didn't slow down at all. As we passed, this one waved at us. A slow, deliberate wave. "How many of those things are there?" I asked. "I don't know. The stories never said. Derek, you have to promise me something. If you see another one, if you see it and you feel like you should stop, you can't. No matter what it looks like, no matter what it sounds like, you can't pick it up." Over the next 30 minutes, we passed 7 more versions of Trevor, each one standing on the side of the highway, each one trying to flag us down. Some were just standing, some were waving. One was on its knees, hands clasped together like it was begging. Trevor was crying by the 5th one. He kept saying, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. We shouldn't have come out here. We shouldn't have played." Finally, we saw lights ahead. A gas station, the first sign of civilization we'd seen in an hour. I pulled in, and Trevor practically fell out of the cab. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for not stopping." "What are you going to do?" I asked. He looked back at the darkness beyond the gas station's lights. "I'm going to call my parents, and I'm never going near Highway 61 again." I waited until he was inside the gas station before I pulled out. I had to get back on Highway 61 to continue my route, and the thought made my skin crawl. But I had a delivery to make. The rest of the drive was uneventful. No more hitchhikers, no more strange figures. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that somewhere in the darkness something was following me, keeping pace with my truck. When I finally crossed into Mississippi, I felt like I could breathe again. I made my delivery the next morning and immediately took a route back that avoided Highway 61 completely. About a week later, I tried to find Trevor online just to make sure he was okay. I searched for news stories about missing kids on Highway 61, about the hitchhiker's game, about anything that would confirm what I had experienced. I found one article. It was from a local Louisiana news site dated 3 years before my encounter. 3 teenagers had gone missing on Highway 61. They told their parents they were going to investigate an urban legend. Their car was found abandoned on the side of the road. No signs of struggle, no evidence of what happened to them. One of those teenagers was named Trevor.
Story 4. The Convoy. My name's Bill, and I'm not sure I should be telling this story. Not because I don't want to, but because I'm still trying to figure out if what happened was real or if I had some kind of breakdown out there on the road. This happened 3 months ago, and I still think about it every single day. I was doing a long haul from Phoenix to Denver, taking I-25 through New Mexico. It's a route I've driven dozens of times, one of those trips where you can practically do it on autopilot. I left Phoenix around 6 in the evening, planning to drive through the night and make Denver by morning. Everything was normal at first. Traffic was light, weather was clear, and I was making good time. I'd been on the road for about 4 hours when I started noticing something odd. There were other trucks on the highway. Not unusual by itself. Truckers run at night all the time. But these trucks were all identical. Same model, same color, a deep maroon that looked almost black in the darkness. Same company logo that I didn't recognize. At first, I counted 3 of them. One was ahead of me by maybe a quarter mile, one was behind me about the same distance, and one was in the lane next to me, keeping perfect pace. I tried to read the logo on the side of the truck next to me, but it was too dark, and the letters seemed to blur whenever I looked directly at them. I figured they were just a fleet making a group delivery or something. Companies do that sometimes. But then I noticed something that made me uneasy. None of them had their running lights on. Every truck is supposed to have lights. Headlights, tail lights, marker lights, it's the law.
But these trucks were dark except for their headlights, like shadows moving down the highway. My CB radio crackled to life. "Trucker and the Freightliner, this is the convoy. You're running with us now." The voice was strange, flat, emotionless, like it was being read by a computer. I picked up my CB. Negative. I'm solo, not part of any convoy." Silence. Then the voice came back. "You're running with us now. Stay in formation." I looked at the trucks around me. They'd closed in. The one ahead had slowed down and the one behind had sped up. I was boxed in, with the maroon truck still keeping pace in the lane next to me. "Listen, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but I'm not interested. I'm taking the next exit." "Negative," the voice said. "You're running with us now. Stay in formation." A chill ran down my spine. I checked my GPS for the next exit. 2 miles. I could make it. I just had to get away from these trucks. But when I tried to slow down to let the truck behind me pass, it slowed down too. When I sped up, it sped up. It was matching my speed exactly, staying right on my tail. I switched lanes trying to get away from the truck next to me, but as soon as I did, another maroon truck appeared in front of me. Where the hell had it come from? I hadn't seen it on the road before. Now there were 4 of them, one in front, one behind, one on each side, all maintaining perfect formation, all moving as one unit. My CB crackled again. "You're running with us now." "What do you want?" I shouted into the radio. No response. We drove like that for 10 minutes. 10 minutes of being trapped in this moving box of trucks, unable to change lanes, unable to slow down or speed up. My heart was pounding and my hands were slick with sweat on the steering wheel. Then I saw the exit sign. 1 mile. I had to make a break for it. I had to try. I waited until the last possible second, then jerked my wheel to the right, cutting toward the exit ramp. The truck on my right should have blocked me, but at the last second, it veered away like it expected my move. I made the exit 70, way too fast, and I could hear my load shifting in the trailer. I didn't care. I just needed to get off the highway. I looked in my rearview mirror as I went down the ramp. The 4 trucks had stopped on the highway, lined up side by side, blocking all the lanes. They just sat there, engines idling as I drove away. The exit led to a small town, barely more than a truck stop and a couple of buildings. I pulled into the truck stop, parked, and sat there shaking for a good 20 minutes. Eventually, I went inside, grabbed some coffee, and tried to calm down. I asked the clerk if he'd seen any maroon trucks come through. He said he hadn't seen any trucks that night, except mine. I decided to wait until morning to get back on the road. I wasn't going to drive through the night anymore. When the sun came up, I checked my truck, checked my load, and got back on the highway. Everything seemed normal. Regular traffic, regular truckers who waved when I passed them. I made it to Denver without incident. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. When I delivered my load and they opened up my trailer, we found something that shouldn't have been in there. A small metal plate bolted to the inside wall of my trailer right near the doors. None of us had seen it before. It had a logo on it, the same logo that was on those maroon trucks. And underneath the logo, there was a message stamped into the metal. "You ran with us. You're always with us now." I tried to remove it, used a crowbar, used power tools, tried everything, but the bolts wouldn't budge. It's like they'd been welded into place by something beyond normal tools. That was 3 months ago. Since then, I've seen them twice more. Once in I-40 in Texas, once on Highway 80 in Nebraska. The same maroon trucks, always in formation, always running dark. I've started taking different routes, avoiding the major highways when I can. But I know they're out there, and I know that someday I'm going to end up running with them again. Because according to that metal plate, I'm part of the convoy now, whether I like it or not. So those were 4 stories from truckers who've seen things on the road that defy explanation. The woman in white, who takes drivers who stop for her,
the thing at the rest stop that shouldn't exist, the hitchhiker's game that traps the unwary, and the convoy that recruits new members whether they want to join or not. If you're a trucker listening to this, or if you spend a lot of time driving at night, maybe these stories will make you think twice about stopping for hitchhikers. Maybe they'll make you more careful about which rest stops you choose. Maybe they'll make you pay attention to the trucks around you. Or maybe you'll tell yourself these are just stories, urban legends, made-up tales to scare people. But the drivers who lived through them know different. Stay safe out there.